So there I was at Home Depot buying a new set of lights for our patio, and what I didn't realize at the time was when I bought the commercial grade kind, they were much heavier than the patio lights we used to have. So I needed to buy some new poles, and after sorting through some contradictory information, I ended up buying a set with multiple pieces, and it ended up looking something like this. So back to the drawing board. Went online, saw a bunch of different creators who had been putting together these cedar planter boxes with 4x4 posts in the middle. Looked really sturdy, and I'll link to all their videos in the description below, but I thought this would be the perfect solution, so I went ahead over to SketchUp, and I made my own version. Of course, I was going to need 2 of them, and then the more I thought about it, well, they're going to be made out of wood. And then I'll fill them with dirt, and I will plant some flowers in them. And then we'll hang those patio lights. And you know what? We'll have some people over. In fact, it'll be a party. We'll give them party hats. And get a fire pit. Hey, this is a good vibe. I like where this is going. So why don't we jump over and see the materials that I used to build these 2 planters. So most of this build comes from about 20 cedar fence pickets. I think I had a couple left over at the end, but these run you about $4 to $5 at Lowe's or Home Depot, so not too bad there. This is most of the build. Then I also picked up a pair of 2x4s, and these will serve as the braces on the inside of the planters for the 4x4 posts, which of course means I need a pair of 4x4 posts. For the 2x4s and the 4x4 posts, I got regular pine. I could have gone the route of pressure-treated pine, but I didn't like the extra weight potentially in the 4x4 posts since these will be so tall, and I'm just going to stain and seal these to protect them against the elements instead. So we're going with that. So first thing I did, maybe an optional step, but just did a light sanding for all these fence pickets because they're pretty scraggly. So just trying to control some of that scruff because I'm going to stain these all later. Then I'm just going to cut down these cedar fence pickets into the slats that I need that'll serve as really the body of the planters. Now, to make the legs for the planters, I'm actually going to rip down some of these cedar fence pickets. You don't need to have a table saw to do this. It would certainly make it easier, as you can see how I have to move some clamps around, but a circular saw with a rip fence got the job done. And with them ripped down, I headed back to the miter station. And I'm just going to cut these down into the lengths I need for my legs. Now, this last step, again, could be optional, but basically just added a chamfer edge with my router to all of the slats and the leg pieces as well. I think at the end it really made this look nicer, but if you don't have a router, you could always skip this step. So in addition to not owning a table saw, I also don't own a nail gun. So I'm going to put this together with screws, and I was trying to minimize the amount of screws that would be visible from the exterior of the planter. So that's why I'm assembling this upside down and putting screws in from the back. I found some scrap wood as a template that actually perfectly spaces the 2 legs apart. So I'm going to flip it over. You can see this is what it's going to look like now on the outside. And of course, going to do it twice. So what I did next was to take the leg pieces and attach them to the sides of these faces. If I had to do it again, I would just put the screws in from the outside, even though they were visible. I was trying to hide the screws, so I ended up putting them in at this kind of odd angle, and I just don't know that it's as strong as it would have been, even though there is glue. And with those all put together, now it's time to add the last 2 sides of the planter. And this is really just going to be gluing it up and screwing in the remaining slats that I'd already cut out. And the hazards of working outside include the wind just knocking over your pieces, putting your hand right in the glue, screwdriver falls over, a little bit of chaos there for about 10 seconds. But hey, is what it is. Nice day to be outside. And then we're just going to flip this over and do the same thing on the other side. And that's going to give us basically the planter box. So that is one frame done and a second frame done. And once we get the frames done, it's time to go install the bottoms. So the way we're going to do this is just add a couple of support braces here on the sides. And once we have those in place, we can go ahead and use some more cedar fence pickets as the quote-unquote floor of the planters. So here are those pieces that I've cut down to be that floor. We're going to glue and screw these in. And they don't need to be super precise. In fact, you want some gaps here because if you're going to fill these with dirt, put some plants in, you need some space for the water to run out. With the floors in place, it's time to start thinking about these braces. So what we're going to have is the 4x4 posts coming up out of the middle of the planter, but I'm going to have at the bottom these 2x4 braces, and I'm actually going to install 2 sets. This will be the first one, and I'm going to find the center of these braces so that I can screw these in to the 4x4 posts. The glue might have been overkill here, I'm not sure, but I went ahead and did it anyway. There's a chance I over-engineered some of this, but I'd rather have this over-engineered than something slightly wobbly because at the end of the day, it's going to be kind of tall and heavy. We're going to have kids running around on the patio. I just don't want to take any chances. And last but not least, let's just make sure these fit inside of the planters. Looks good to me. All right, next day, we're just gonna give it the old, is this really strong enough to hold the posts and dirt and everything? Well, it can hold me. Although it's sagged slightly in the middle, so we're gonna go ahead and add some reinforcement. Just gonna install a little brace here on the bottom, going across the floor from the underside. And did I say over-engineering before? Because then I also had this idea that we should probably add more braces to the feet as well. At the end of the day, I don't know how much these made a difference. In fact, a couple of them even fell out as I installed it. But just in case. Alright, now we're coming back to these braces again. I don't know why I did this exactly out of order like this, but we've got one set of braces, and now I'm going to add a second set that go across. One more dry fit. Let's make sure this is all looking good. And you can see it's starting to come together. Now, there's a bit of a order of operations to the next parts because we're going to be putting in the base, and I also want to make sure that it is stained before I put it in, because once I put it in and then I put the framing along the top edge of the planter, I'm not going to be able to pull it back out. So we're going to sand that 4x4 down now, and then of course stain the bottom because this is going to be in contact with some dirt. I just want to put an extra layer of stain and seal to protect it a little bit. And with that done, I'm going to rip down some additional fence pickets to make that frame for the top of the planter. Then we're just going to make some miter cuts on each of those ripped down pieces. Now, I think I mentioned earlier that I don't own a nail gun, so we're going to do this the old-fashioned way with an actual hammer and nails. So I'm going to glue these pieces on and then just nail them on. And then really the last thing here is to stain the rest of the planter. Alright, and we have nearly the final product now. You'll notice the inside doesn't have any stain, but because it's cedar, it's going to resist moisture and rot and all those things anyway. So I'm not worried about the cedar. The exterior is really just for the look. The pine is what I was trying to protect. But overall, these are looking like I was hoping they would. So it's time to put them into position on the patio before I weigh them down with some stone as well as the dirt for the plants we'll put in them. And before I do that, got to make sure I put the hooks on so that I can hang my patio lights. These are just some flower pot hooks that I picked up from Lowe's. And added a cap on top, and that's going to prevent any rain from coming in and going down the middle of the post. Now, let's get those lights up, take off the tags, and see what it looks like on the patio. The next day, after putting down a layer of stone, I'm going to fill the planters with dirt so that I can plant some flowers for the final touch. And overall, there's the final product. Cedar planters with 4x4 posts on the patio holding up some patio lights. Thanks for watching and hope you enjoyed.